It's time for Sensei Chat. I hope everyone's doing well. It is July 4th weekend. I hope everyone has some really incredible and fun plans. Obviously, this is America's holiday. So if you're maybe out in the world and you're not American, this has no impact on you, but it is a big weekend for Americans. And so I just wanted to wish everybody a safe and fun holiday. It is always an honor to spend this time with you and go over the news and information, answer some of your questions. We got Clarity Act information, of course, a lot of news around that. There was a brand new interview with President Trump and his thoughts on crypto and AI. And so I want to touch on that. And of course, the market is up a bit. XRP kind of coming back from like a $1.02, $1 range now at $1.13. If I had to take a look at the recent chart, but it does feel like there's a little bit of life there. And so I wanted to talk to you about maybe what's to be expected from the chart analysts and what's to come, guys. And so I hope everyone's having a great day. This stream is sponsored by Uphold. Uphold is one of our incredible partners here. We wouldn't be able to do everything that we're able to on this channel without sponsors like Uphold. They really do help us do more content, get more stuff in front of you guys, and they're an incredible partner, and I'm very thankful to be working with them. Just wanted to highlight a few things before we jump in here, as we always do. It is the July 4th weekend, and Uphold does have some different incentives if you guys are looking to take advantage of that. Make sure that you're following them on uphold.com. Also, something very interesting that people always ask me about is doing a little bit more with your crypto. Right now, they have a new product called the Exa Card, where you can, you can take money, you can pull money, spend against your cryptos. That's what I was trying to say. Spend against your crypto, pay 0% interest right now with Exa Card. 6 interest-free installments on July spend, receive your interest back in USDC. So if you're looking to maybe take your crypto and do more with it, Uphold does have some options for you to do that. And now 0% interest, paid later up to 6 installments on up to 3,000 in USDC. So they're definitely trying to put some incentives together around their new Exa Card. I will actually be interviewing the Chief Product Officer of Uphold, Paul Unterberg, next week. We're going to do that, and then I'm going to have him on the show. Uphold's been working on a lot of things behind the scenes, and that's the man that loves to spill the beans. He's also a really nice guy, and he has a lot of really unique information about regulatory, things that are going on, like the UK here in the United States, and what's going to be the future as far as what Uphold's working on specifically, but also their partners. So I'm really looking forward to sitting down with Paul. Last but not least, of course, Uphold. This is the product I use the most with Uphold, is their limited edition XRP Elite debit card. And so actually this is something different. The limited edition XRP Elite debit card waitlist is officially open. So I actually have the regular card. I don't have the XRP card. I need to put my name on the wait list here. So if you guys do have the Uphold card, or if you don't have it and you're looking to maybe get one, you can get 4% back in XRP on anything you spend up to a certain amount per month back. And it looks like they have a really dope XRP card, which I will limited edition. Oh man. All right. I got to get that. Okay. Let's move forward here. I did think this was interesting when you look at this poll, and it just so happens Uphold ran this poll, but what I'm looking specifically here is how long have you been an XRP holder? Okay. And if you, if the market was really kind of starting to turn around and new users were going to come in, you'd start to see this number right here. This is what I was most interested when I looked at this poll, is how many people have been holding for 1 year or less. And this is only at 3.4%. So actively, the bigger people here are the 5-year plus people, and then the 3 to 5 year, and then the 1 to 2 year, which means there's not a lot of new people coming in and acquiring XRP right now. And so that's just because of the market dynamics and where we are. But if you start to see these polls and you start to see this number starting to tick up, you know that new investors are coming in, and this is something to pay attention to. All right. So let's transition into the news. And so President Trump, he was actually, you know what? I didn't get to say hi to any of you. Oh my goodness. Where's my manners? Peter O'Neill, great to see you. Wayne, hello. Mike, what's up, dude? Jordan, great to see you. Happy 4th of July. Gary, what's up, man? Gary says, aloha to all, especially Ariana. Be safe on the 4th. Man, love that, man. Thank you so much. And of course, Ariana is here to keep the chat safe. And of course, everyone loves to talk with her in the chat. Tova says, howdy. What's up, Tova? Nice to see you, man. Who else we got in the chat? Crypto Prince is here. Where's your significant other? Great to see you, Crypto Prince. Fred's here. What's up, Fred? Metro Knight is here. Great to see you, Metro. Christian K. What's up, my dude? Great to see you. Oh, there she is. I was like, usually one, you get both, right? Great to see you, Duchess. I hope you're had some good plans this holiday weekend. It looks like we have great weather outside. It looks beautiful outside right now. Game of Cats, great to see you, man. How you doing, brother? All right, Tom's in the house. A few other people checking in. All right, don't forget to share the stream if you can do that. I'd greatly appreciate that. Getting in front of more people. Let's jump in here with President Trump, and this is a brand new interview that just hit the airwaves yesterday. Actually, this is from a longer clip. There was two clips, right? There was a clip that was 1:34 that kind of brought up Trump's involvement with crypto. And I didn't really feel like I needed to bring that clip in, but this clip was probably the more important clip to show you.
The way I view crypto is a little differently. We have to be at the top. Otherwise, China's going to take it over. Like, for instance, AI, we're leading substantially in AI over China and everybody else. I mean, we're leading. When I was with President Xi 3 weeks ago, he greeted me, and his first words, I mean, literally were, wow, you've really done a great job. You've really, because this country was dead. We had a dead country. Now we have the hottest country in the world. And the way I look at AI, or the way I look at crypto, is if we're not going to do it, China's going to get it. Most likely China, no, but somebody else. Japan is somebody else. And I want to, it's a big industry. Crypto, you call it an industry, but it's a big deal. And crypto is a big deal. You look at it and the way it's grown over the years. You have believers, you don't have believers, you know, whatever it is. But it's a big deal. And anything we do, I want to be number one in. And we're number one in crypto, and we're also number one in AI.
I can't tell you how important it is to have the president of the United States come out and say how important crypto is, right? Whatever, you know, politics aside, that is a big deal. And so, you know, other nations are looking at interviews like that, and they're saying, hey, maybe we should be focused on crypto and regulation as well. And it just, you know, speeches from the president of the United States, speeches in like the EU and the UK and Singapore, all these places, you're starting to hear more and more crypto-friendly remarks, regulations to get their country set up. And, you know, slowly but surely, we are kind of turning the world into a pro-crypto place. Think of where the market was 5 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago. We've come so far, and I think it's only going to start cascading and speeding up as we go. So just love to hear those words. I did need to, you know, double check this, right? Because when we are saying that America is the number one crypto place right here, let me just go back here. The last maybe like 10 seconds of this here.
Don't have believers, you know, whatever it is, but it's a big deal. And anything we do, I want to be number one in. And we're number one in crypto, and we're also number one in AI.
Okay, 2 points here. I want to be, be number one. That comment makes me feel like if the Clarity Act does get to President Trump's desk, that he will sign it. He also said we are number one in crypto. And so I just wanted to double check that. And so here is the actual information. And I said, give me the 10 biggest list of biggest crypto countries by development, regulation, and usage, which I think are the three biggest points that you would want to see. It says, based on the recent cross-country indices that combine regulation, development, and usage, there is no single official top 10, but the core group of countries that keep appearing. And those countries are as follows. And understand this is from 2025 to 2026. And so, you know, it's really hard to get that data in the middle of the year. And so this may have shifted a bit, but as of 2025 to 2026, Singapore was number one on this list. United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi is the second. Switzerland has a place called Crypto Valley, if you believe it. It's in Zug. And then, of course, the United States, is here in fourth. Hong Kong in fifth. European Union in sixth. United Kingdom in seventh. South Korea in eighth. Japan in ninth. And Australia coming in strong. Look at that. Aussies. building out their framework. And so obviously we've had a lot of flurry of information and regulation and adoption over the last 6 months. So this could be different, of course, but I just wanted to better understand from my perspective where does that list say? Let's see here. So here, and Don brings up a point that I've heard of lots. So let's just talk about it really quickly and address it together. It says his words are meaningless because he's not going to pass any bill that doesn't allow him and his family and billionaire buds to fleece us. He's misled us. So, obviously, I hear what you're saying, and I know there's a lot of people that think he won't sign a bill. And so this is going to be the hot button issue. It's really not about illicit finance. It's very small. That stuff's being worked out. It's really about the ethics side of it. Like that's going to be the make or break moment for the Clarity Act. And so I get the frustration. And so is this all a show, right? Is what he is saying and what he's kind of promised his supporters, is it all a show? Is it more about making money? I think that's really going to come down to the wire here. It's really going to depend on what the ethics language is in the bill, right? They had a deal. The deal fell apart. We don't really know what the new information is yet going to be. And I think before we kind of say it's impossible or it's not going to happen, we need to understand what that language specifically says. Because I was looking through this, and I just want to share this with you because, when I live stream, I get to kind of really talk out my thoughts and my points and how I see all of this stuff. And it's easier for me to do this here than it is on a video where I'm trying to flow through information. So if you're not familiar, this is the report of 2025 and Trump's report, how much money he earned from crypto. And so a few things here. Trump meme coined $635 million. That's a lot of money. Okay. And they built a platform where people had to go in and when they were swapping and trading, the platform took a fee. That's how they were able to make a return, right? And I don't know what the specifics were about how many tokens they kept and if they sold whatever, but they're showing this as 635 million. All right, and then you have World Liberty Financial. Token sales for that are 526 million, which is quite a bit. Now I want to focus this top one. Okay, the Trump meme coin, and let's just pull this up really quickly so we can all just be on the same page. Trump. And so official Trump here. When you just look at this thing, I mean, it's down a total of, in the last 12 months, it's down 80%. But I think like in total, it's down over like 90% or something like that, right? I don't know if this is going to come back. Very hard to say. So this might not be like the hottest topic. I think this is where the challenge will lie, right? If there is ethics language in the bill, this is what would need to be figured out, I think, right? Because USD1 is under World Liberty, right? And so I think this would be the problem. Until we get the ethics language, we can't really talk about what the solutions are going to be because that language could obviously change on a dime. I just don't know if there's a ton of money to be made off of this now that kind of, the token is all pretty much gone to all-time lows. Now, could it come back? Could it recover? Obviously, it's crypto, anything's possible. But very difficult in my mind for people to kind of keep dumping money into this thing when, I think people in meme coins were in a bear market. It's very hard for meme coins to flourish. There's obviously a few that are doing well, like AMSM, but very hard to see where this is going to go. So it comes down to World Liberty and how they're going to resolve that or solve it. I don't know what the solution is there, but we are making progress here. Today, it was announced that the Noble organization, which stands for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, they've endorsed the Clarity Act, becoming the first major law enforcement organization to publicly support the legislation, which includes the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act. This is a big deal. And might I say, what a really cool name, right? That is your acronym, Noble. I love it, man. That is just the noble thing to do, right? And in a letter sent to Senate leaders, Noble ATL says the bill contains several provisions that would provide law enforcement with meaningful new capabilities. So this is the moment. The issue here, if you're not familiar, is there's been all of these different associations like the Sheriff's Association and law enforcement and the like chiefs association, they're all kind of saying, you know, we're not for the Clarity Act because it doesn't do X, Y, and Z. We feel that it's going to allow more illicit finance to happen. And so up to now, you really didn't have support. Now you're starting to see either some support or actually some of these organizations go into a neutral stance. And what was happening is some Democrat lawmakers and maybe even some Republican lawmakers were pointing to that and saying, well, if law enforcement agencies are not going to support the bill, I can't support the bill, right? There's a lot of kind of politics, and certain states have to, you know, be more maybe connected to law enforcement and kind of, you know, they have a little bit maybe more control over what happens. It's very complicated across 50 states to target one thing specifically. But now that you're starting to see organizations like this support the Clarity Act, that could be like a very big moving point. And then here you go, the major county sheriffs of America, the MSCA, has shifted to a neutral position on the Clarity Act after what it describes as a continued discussion in recent days regarding parts of Section 604, aka the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act. So in a letter to Senate leaders, they say that based on its continued review of the bill, there remains an opportunity to further strengthen legislation in ways that support responsible innovation and the practical needs of the state and law enforcement. So you're starting to see a shift, and you needed to see a shift there. Does anybody know what happened with the Argentina game? I was watching that and it was still going when I had to get online, so I didn't get to finish it. Anybody got, did they win? Is it still tied? I'd love to know. Hey, Adam, what's up, my man? Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, well, I know there's a lot of strong opinions about clarity and regulation, and Clarity Act will pass. Dems would be foolish. Clarity Act, Dems would be foolish to vote against it. We already know how dumb Warren is. Yeah, man, it's shocking how far away some of these people are from reality about crypto and regulation. It just, you know, is it like, are you paid for by the banks? Like, is that where your opinion's coming from? Or you just, you can't see the future and kind of what it holds, right? And if the US isn't a leader, I mean, when I played the clip from Trump saying that if we don't lead, other countries will, you know, he's not wrong about that. And, you know, if we're not setting the rules for the future, other countries will. And I think it would set America back for generations. It really would, you know, to not be a leader in this new digital age. It would just be such a catastrophic failure of leadership on that side. So, you know, the good news is midterms are coming up. Well, it's good news and bad news because there is going to be some pressure put on people who are anti-crypto if they're running for re-election, or if they're you know, trying to, I guess it only cares about running for re-election, right? You have to be kind of involved. So, you know, will that pressure from like the super PACs be enough to maybe bring some votes around? You do need all 53 Republican and 7 Democrats to vote for it. Under the Genius Act that passed last year, you actually had a few Republicans that didn't support it. So you probably need about 10 Democrat senators to support it. So just a lot of things always constantly happening, even though they're on vacation. It's still moving forward. And like, if you guys really want good updates on this, I'm making a Clarity Act update almost daily. And so it's constantly moving forward, and I try my best to help you, you know, stay up to date with it. All right. All right, let me show you this, because there is a lot of movement right now globally with regulation. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on in the chat, because the EU MiCA transitional period ended. And so if you're like, what is that? And so that happened on July 1st. MiCA set some rules and regulation, and you only had so much time to get a license to operate in the EU. And if you didn't, you can no longer operate. And so there's some actual big names that are not operating in the EU right now. One of them is Tether, USDT Tether. Other is like Binance and Bybit and like really massive crypto companies that weren't able to secure the proper licensing to serve EU customers. And so last time I checked, there was about 250 companies out of 3,000, which is roughly 8 to 10% of companies are licensed to continue operating in the EU, and everybody else has to stop. And what kind of power shift is that going to create in the EU? And you start to wonder, right? The most regulated companies, what opportunities that they are going to have unlocked because they can service those institutional or retail customers. I think it's going to be a big deal. And so I personally believe you're going to see more announcements coming out of the EU with new partnerships, new infrastructure providers, all of these things. And I think you're going to start to see Ripple in the middle of this, Ripple in the middle of that. Don't be shocked over the next maybe 6 to 12 weeks if you start to see some announcements. I personally think that's going to roll out. All right. And then I thought this was interesting. For the first time in U.S. history, both the president and vice president have disclosed personal Bitcoin holdings. So that's really cool. It's nice to see them hold it. All right. Really quickly, I did want to shift into interest rates and what's going on with the Fed here in the United States. Often interest rates can kind of tell the market, things are going to go good or bad. Higher rates, it's more expensive to borrow. Lower rates, it's easier for people to borrow and put that money into risk assets. And so here is the new Fed chair and his opinion on rates and where we stand.
Interpret the recent data points on the labor side of your mandate.
So when we met 2 weeks ago, I think the way we as a committee described the labor side of the mandate is we said labor markets are steady. We said the demand side of the economy was solid. And we said the supply side of the economy, especially CapEx and productivity, again, this is before we see the fruits of AI. We said that was strong. I don't want to sound like a Wall Street newsletter and update that with recent events because we follow trends. And I'll reinforce something that President Lagarde just said. We're all in the price stability business. That might not be our only business, but if there was a common thing I heard over the last couple of days, it was open-mindedness on these questions of AI, open-mindedness on productivity. But we've all looked around and we've seen that prices are too high. And I don't think I'm the only one on this stage that's recommitted to deliver price stability.
So the market was right to interpret your first news conference as hawkish.
Nice try.
Yeah, I'm not. I've just gotten advice from my senior statesman on this group not to do that. But I'll say this: expectations of inflation over the first 4 months, first 4 weeks of this period, they've come down. Inflation risks have come down. Again, in our business, we don't want to overdetermine things. But if there were people in household or the business sector and the financial markets who thought that this central bank was going to be comfortable with an inflation objective above 2%, well, I guess they'd be disappointed. We're going to deliver price stability in the US. That's what this committee has signed up to do. And our objective is to do that. The tactics, the strategy, and the rest, that's still to come.
No matter what the president wants.
We've been an independent central bank for a very long time. We're going to be an independent central bank at this moment, and you're going to see no changes on that.
Okay, the reason I wanted to play this, it is expected, there's an 85% chance that we actually have a rate increase by the end of the year. So obviously that could create some market volatility. I will keep a close eye on it, and I'll bring you updates when I have them about what's going on with that. Obviously, if the issues in the Middle East resolve and things can stabilize a bit and inflation can start coming back down, that could be a very positive sign that the Fed will eventually lower rates. If inflation remains sticky or even increases a bit, obviously they might have to go the other way. So we'll keep that in mind and just take a look. Someone said, by the way, guys, Sensei, I have a very good article for you. If you have a good article for me, please email it to me. I'd love to take a look and better understand that. You can always reach out. I will do my absolute best to get back to you in a timely fashion. Just don't send me like 15 pages of text or something like that. My weekends or like at nighttime when I turn everything off and I get into bed, I'm usually kind of checking my emails. And if it's something like, I'll just space out and just make sure it's is Luna a financial advisor yet? Oh man, I wish. Yeah, so interesting. Thank you for bringing this up, Wager. Somebody did tell me that he said that. I did go look at his what he said. So Claver said on Wednesday live that he wants you to call him and invite him to your channel to squash the beef that may exist. You should do it. But you both are highly respected pillars of the XRP community. Bring the utility back. First of all, thank you so much for the donation. As always, I really greatly appreciate you, man. I did reach out to Jake when I saw what he said. I did email him. I have not heard back from him. So, we will see if he actually does want to commit to that. I don't know how long or if he's busy right now or traveling or whatever, but I did reach out to have a conversation with him to talk about a path forward here. I think what happens is that he has some pretty, I don't even know what you call them. He has some expectations for the market and where he see things going. I am more of like a facts-based person where like I can only deal with what's in front of me. I don't have, sources at some of these weird things that maybe are, I don't know. He always says that he has somebody somewhere or somebody's told him something. I'm just doing the nitty-gritty work that I can to research what I know to be true as facts. When there's a lot of predictions made and like I can take what he is saying and then I can research exactly what he is saying and then try to better understand from his perspective or try to understand it from, everybody else looking, from the outside in, right? When you're talking about the carry trade, and I did a video on the carry trade about what information we know as factual, people didn't like my opinion on that video. And I think that's maybe what caused somebody to bring that up. I don't know. I feel that you can't make everybody happy. And I'm going to continue doing everything that I can to understand the facts of the market and give you guys the facts as I know them. It would be easier for me to just tell you that XRP is going to $1,000 tomorrow. Like if I could be the fantasy person to just keep telling you fantasy prices over and over again, man, that would be a whole lot easier than having to do all of this research and spending 10 to 12 hours a day on my computer running into dead ends here and there. But like, that's what I'm committed to. And, there's an audience for facts-based stuff. And so, the pressure's all on Jake right now, right? He has kind of set the stage for massive events. And if they don't play out, that's once again, something that he's kind of promised will happen. And then if it doesn't happen, that just puts more pressure on him. So I'm just going to let it play out, talking directly about why this whole thing started between me and him. I think it was a lack of communication where I was trying to have a conversation with him about something. And, he lost my number. He lost communication. And then, I come to find out that, he was up to some interesting things a few years ago. Right. And so, I think we can both sit here and take shots at each other, or we can have a conversation and end it. So I'm hoping that he does reach out and we can, put it behind us. But I need to continue to fact check what he's saying, regardless if I like him or I don't like him, right? We need to hold each other accountable. I hope that if I'm putting out something and somebody is fact checking me, right? I hope that I'm giving you the right information, right? And if I am somehow leaning away from that, I want people to hold me accountable. All right, let's move on from that. But thank you. It's a complicated process, man. But the crazy part people don't understand, I want him to be right more than anything, right? Because if he's right, everybody wins, right? But some of the stuff that he says doesn't line up with reality. And so I'm just trying to better understand it, right? So Like the whole Swift stuff, that has nothing to do with XRP. That's Linea based. It's EVM compatible. You could maybe plug the XRP Ledger into that system, maybe through like a bridge of some sort. But there's never been a public announcement ever about XRP and Swift, right? Nothing that we can point to. And so I was confused about when he said that. And then also the GTCC stuff that's moving forward in July, that also has to do with Canton Network. So I think there's just some discrepancies. I'd love to have a conversation with him about it. And maybe we will have that conversation, but the ball's in his court. I did reach out. That was fun. That was a fun topic. I love it. Let's not do that again. XRP price prediction after the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act. Okay, people need to understand that regulation has been a cloud over the crypto market, right? And whether it passes or it doesn't passes, that cloud will be lifted. And so most people might be sitting on the sidelines saying, I'm not going to invest in this asset class unless the Clarity Act passes, or vice versa. It's just holding back people from entering the market. And so will you get, like, if the Clarity Act is going to be signed by Trump, will you get some FOMO in the market? Probably. I mean, it would be a pretty massive event, but it's not an event that changes the industry, right? It's an event that is in the moment where people will get excited. You might get new investors to come in. Like, there's all of these things that could lead up to maybe some bigger price moves, but it's not going to move the industry on day one. I think people need to understand that. And we don't know how quickly banks and institutions will move if, in fact, that is signed into law. Does that happen a week after, a month after, a year after? What is the time frame? You got to remember the rulemaking for the bill takes time. You saw MiCA that was passed in like 2024. It didn't go into effect until the end of 2026. And then, you had this period in between. So it's actually 2 years later that you started to see. Now, take the Genius Act, for example. That passed about a year ago. You are starting to see some pretty big announcements around the Genius Act and stablecoins, right? So it took some time for those things to build up, partnerships to be integrated, partnerships to be announced. I would imagine the same thing happens. Now, there's probably banks and institutions that have a whole team of lawyers that can go through the Clarity Act and say, this is what's probably going to be legal and this is what's not. This is where we can operate. This is where we need to stay away from. And also, it would probably open the floodgates for the SEC to just, be like, no action letter, no action letter, no action letter. You might not need it at a certain point, but, the SEC could basically tell the whole industry that just go run. We're not going to do anything to you. So short-term FOMO, but I do think it's a longer-term, impact if that helps you. All right. But thank you for the donation. I don't know if my answer was helpful to you, but I tried. Yeah, here, let me do this. You know what? Wager, we can have a better conversation about this maybe next week. It's really hard, as we have a partner stream here. So, I don't really want to get tied down into like all of that. It does take the energy out of the stream, but we'll try to figure it out, man. I'd love to get it resolved and behind us. But there's still a lot of work to be done. It's like, two younger siblings fighting each other over like a truck or a toy or something, right? Like, it's going to need like a parent to intervene and separate the two. Crypto is all about speculation. There's no need for fact check. Let everyone speculate. It's a crime to speculate. It's a crime to speculate. It's up to you to accept it or leave it. Even the stock market, speculation is normal. Fair point, right? I definitely am not going to spend more time talking about that situation. If you guys want to ask me about anything else in the market, I'm here to have a conversation, but I just don't want to get too bogged down on that topic. All right. And then BOFA CEO dismisses recession fears. So this is good news here. CEO Brian Moynihan, Bank of America CEO, said the higher interest rates are not a sign of a recession, but reflect a resilient U.S. economy. So it does sound like maybe these heads of certain banks are preparing people for possibly higher rates. This really goes against what the U.S.'s overall plan was to hopefully lower rates, and people are expecting cheaper money. But that's where we are. And then, of course, this is a big deal. I made a video on this the other day, and I hope people understand the impact that this could eventually have on the XRP community and institutional usage. Ripple proposes the XRP Ledger lending protocol, letting banks and payment providers borrow against tokenized assets directly on the XRP Ledger. This is what it would look like here if you're interested in understanding this. This is XLS 65 and 66. This is still in the amendment process and being voted on. And so Ripple unveils XRPL on-chain lending protocol. Ripple introduced a new XRPL lending protocol designed to expand on-chain finance by bringing institutional credit infrastructure on-chain. The protocol lets licensed institutions handle credit decisions off-chain, while loan terms, repayments, interest, and defaults are enforced directly on-chain. So this could be a very big moment once all this stuff goes in. It means the XRP Ledger is adding native institutional grade lending, turning XRP and tokenized assets on the ledger into productive capital that banks, payment service providers, and fintechs can borrow against without leaving the XRP Ledger. Ripple often is trying to build everything on one platform so an institution doesn't have to use multiple kind of gateways or institutional partners to do different things in the market. And so if you're trying to do borrow, lending, FX, if you're trying to do all of these additional things, tokenizing assets, maybe you want to launch your own stablecoin or you want to use RLUSD, whatever it is, keeping it in one place is going to be a lot more easier, especially for institutions or corporations, right? You think about everything that Ripple Treasury, G Treasury is doing, where you can have all of your bank accounts in one system, especially if you operate globally. That's going to be super easy. And then if you want to make payments using XRP or RLUSD, that could really speed up settlement times globally. And it'll allow you to take your capital and earn interest off your capital while you're doing that. So Mike, I hear what you're saying. It says Uphold takes 21 days to get your money back from being unstaked. Do better. You know what, Mike? I'll bring that up to them and see if there's a solution there or if it can be sped up. I'd be happy to have that conversation. I appreciate you giving feedback. It's very important to give feedback. I know when you're staking something, you can swap, right? You can just swap it. Because I had, I think, some Flare stake there, and I swapped some of that for some Canton. I was just kind of playing around with the system. So I know you can make swaps with it, but I'll bring that up, man. See what we can do to move that forward. I'll also have Paul Unterberg on stream here in next week, I believe. I'd have to take a look at the schedule. I believe it's not next week, the week after, I think, on Friday. So hold on, let me just pull up my calendar here. It's going to be, I believe I think it's the 14th. I'll have to check with my team, but it's going to be soon. You're going to be able to ask him these questions yourself, right? So I'll take some questions from the audience. So if you want to ask a few things like this, I'd be happy to bring that up and we can have an open conversation. Okay. Hey, Tehran, this I used your clip in a video the other day on Australia. You asked Brad Garlinghouse the question of what is important, like what's a top priority for him, and he said his wife, right? He said Tara, and then you asked what is a priority for Ripple, and he talked about Ripple Treasury, G Treasury, and I thought that was very well done, man. Thank you, Vince. What's up, dude? Great to see you. What is the latest? I missed your start. So basically what we're having is Trump was just interviewed saying that crypto is one of his top priorities. He wants America to still remain, or he wants America to be number one for crypto and AI. We did get some updates on the Clarity Act that they are still moving forward. We did get two different enforcement groups, law enforcement groups. One was called Noble. Here, let me just show you this really quickly. So you got these two groups. The National Association of Black Enforcement Executives endorsed the Clarity Act, becoming the first major law enforcement organization to publicly support the legislation. And then you also had the major county sheriffs of America have shifted to a neutral position on the Clarity Act. So you're starting to see law enforcement agencies starting to kind of work its way back and support the Clarity Act, which has been one of the holdbacks for support from some Democratic senators. So that's a big deal. And then we've been talking about the XRP Ledger lending protocol and several other questions I had just been, asked and answered. All right. Remember to watch the ball drop at midnight in your time zone. Is the ball drop? Wait, what? It's July. We're not in December. Is there something I don't know? Is there like a half year celebration that I'm not familiar with? Does the new regulatory environment set the stage for an institutional demand shock for XRP? How might that utility-based volume shift the token's price compared to traditional supply and demand? Well, right now you just have maybe retail holders supporting XRP and some institutional investors, but you don't have institutional level usage of XRP, let's say in America. Like a bank is not using XRP to do much of anything because they want to see it in black and white as far as the regulation is concerned, right? So if you remove the regulation hurdle, what does that unlock for XRP and its utility? I mean, the thing here, that people don't maybe understand or maybe don't, don't take Ripple for granted. They have done a lot of work to position XRP specifically for institutional usage. And when you remove that roadblock of regulation, that could really unlock some pretty big moves there. And so if you start getting, one bank, 10 banks, 50 banks, 100 banks starting to use XRP every day to move tokenized value, or you're starting to bring more tokenized assets on the ledger, RLUSD is expanding. You have all of these different areas expanding at the same time. And so it really is going to come down to regulatory capture globally. How quickly can that evolve? I mean, Brad Garlinghouse himself has said that he believes over the next 5 years that he thinks 30% of Ripple treasury will be used on the XRP ledger, like using XRP or RLUSD. That's still a pretty slow timeline if you think about it, right? Because, that's 13 trillion. You would just imagine that why wouldn't those companies want to start using XRP or RLUSD immediately, right? And so it just goes to show you how slow some of these companies and institutions are reacting. But once you lift regulatory, that regulatory burden, if you get the Clarity Act passed, everybody is competing against everybody in that new world. And so you will have this rush and evolution of the market, and the most regulated assets and the most regulated companies will probably see the biggest impact. And that would, in my mind, is Ripple and XRP. So instead of kind of us speculating on XRP's value, you're going to have XRP's value kind of set by the market instead, if that helps. So I think it'll have a massive deal, but I think it'll be a kind of a slow burn type of situation. I don't know. It's not going to happen. It's not going to pass on a Sunday. And then on Monday, I think you're going to see like the price go to $100. Like I think it'll take time to, slowly build up these things, but you got to imagine RLUSD is expanding. Real world assets on the XRP ledger. Well, let's just go through this. RLUSD went from 20 million to, 900 million on the XRP ledger since the start of 2024. Okay. So about 18 months, it grew substantially. Most of it was on Ethereum. Now you have 55% of it on the XRP ledger. I think you have about 900 million in transactions the last 6 months, specifically around RLUSD. So that's expanding. All right. Imagine that's going to keep growing on the scale that it's going. For real world assets on the XRP ledger, you went from 50 million to 5 billion if you include stablecoins since the start of 2025. And so that has rapidly started growing as well. And so you have all of these different things. Now you have Ripple Treasury, you have Ripple Prime, you have all of these new areas. Now you're trying to build this like lending credit market. on the XRP Ledger. I mean, there's just so many avenues that they're trying to solve at once. If they're successful in any one of these areas, it'll make an impact. If they're successful in multiple areas, I think it'll have a much larger impact. So, oh, there's a ball dropping in New York for 250 America. Thank you for telling me. I didn't know. Social, what's up, man? Great to see you. Administrative repricing. That's a really nice way to say it, Headley. That's a really that's a more elegant way of saying what I was trying to say. Thank you. Treats for Luna, man. I really appreciate you. How's Waka Flocka? Right? I remember. Why is everyone saying that California has to pass before the August recess or it's dead when there's a 3 full weeks after a session? Okay. So, sorry, it's not California. It's Clarity Act. My brain, since I lived in California half my life, whenever I see CA, like it's an address, my brain thinks California. So the question here from Wager, and thank you for the donation again, Wager, is why is everyone saying that the Clarity Act has to pass before the August recess? Okay. So it is a midterm year. And so after the August recess, usually senators and Congress people are in their home states. They're not back in Washington doing any, they're trying to get reelected. So not everybody is up for reelections, so it's, especially senators, it's every 6 years, but Congress people, it's every 2 years. So, that's going to be the focus. If you are running in a state or a district that you have stiff competition, you need to focus on keeping your job. And so people are not going to care about coming back to Washington and passing a piece of legislation. So that's why they say if it doesn't happen before then, it's probably not going to happen until maybe after the midterms. But even then, that portion, the midterms is in November. The time between when the new Congress or whatever or Senate is sworn in, that time is called the lame duck session. And, if you're a congressperson or a senator that just got voted out, chances are you're not really caring to show up and make your legacy known. So that's why people put the date right before the August recess, because if it doesn't happen before then, the chances of it happening this year or in this session are probably very much reduced. I don't want to say impossible because, if it's something that has to be done, they'll find a way to get everybody back and do it. But it's less likely to happen. It's less likely to happen. And so Kamono says, I think Claver prices have to come true. He's not the only one. I think we all think XRP is possible. I think the disconnect is the time frame in which those prices are possible. Like when you say XRP to $100 or $1,000 this year, I think people push back like we can't even keep $1.30 right now or $1.50, or we can't even break $5 or $3. How are we going to get to these prices? Like what is going to happen between now and the end of the year to get to these prices? I think that's more of the conversation and pushback people come up with, right? It's easy to say that it's going to go to $100 or $1,000 this year, but it's harder to actually get the asset to those prices because you're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar market cap for XRP. It actually would have to be a larger market cap than Bitcoin in order to get to, let's say, $100, right? What is that? Is that a $5 trillion market cap for XRP? Something massive, right? Let me see here. Let me see. Coin market cap. Let's just take a look here. XRP. So right now we're at a 70 billion market cap. Yeah. So I mean, 100. You're talking about close to 100x. It would need to be a lot, right? Maybe 5-6 trillion market cap. It would take a lot, man. So I think that's what people that's what I question and people question. But hey, if it happens, wow, that will be legendary. It really will be. Okay, so Mike has a warning here. He says he just wants to warn everybody that I just saw the send us one to get to Sacum for XRP featuring AI. I think he's saying that he saw an AI of Brad Garlinghouse that's trying to scam people, and he's just trying to warn people just to be careful. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Yeah, they're never going to give you anything for free. Anytime you see, and the scams look really good. They've come a long way. Like, it really kind of does look like Brad Garlinghouse up there talking about some kind of rebate or something like that. If you send your XRP to anybody or anywhere that you think you're going to get double back or whatever, you're just going to lose your money. So, hold on to that like your life depends on it, right? It's very important that, you don't respond to text messages or phone calls or emails ever asking for your seed phrase or ever asking you for anything, right? You just need to be extremely careful because scams are getting more sophisticated in this day and age. And there's been so many heartbreak stories of people losing, all their crypto or some of their crypto because of an elaborate scam. So thank you for bringing that up, Mike. I appreciate you. Yeah, man. If you're driving and texting, just be careful, Mike. But hey, I appreciate you bringing that up. And AI is getting to a point where it's very difficult to tell which one is which, right? And so good job talking about that. Husky Tom from Luna to Luna, happy treats and happy 4th. Happy 4th, man. I hope you and Luna are doing well. It's always nice to hear from you, Tom. It's always nice to see you in the chat. I get also excited when I see you in the chat, man. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, if it happens, but like, what are the two biggest events that Jake says are going to happen, right? Like, I played a clip from him the other day, and it was like Swift going live, and it was DTCC, right? Neither one of those things have XRP involved unless you're talking about Ripple Prime as part of the working group, right? Ripple is connected into the DTCC. But the DTCC has not publicly come out and said that it's going to be using the XRP Ledger, right? We know that they have the ability to do so, but there is no public documentation that the DTCC came out and said, we're working with Canton. They came out and said, we're working with Stellar. They came out and said that you can work with, I think, was it Hyperledger, right? There's all of these things that they've come out and said. They have not said anything about XRP, right? We can go look at the patent. We can look at Securacy and the company the DTCC bought. There's so many like rabbit holes we can go down, but I'm looking for them to actually say the words, okay? Also, Swift. Show me anything, anywhere that Swift's new payment system has anything to do with XRP. It doesn't. If you research it, you know they work with consensus and it's built on Linea, right? And they're going to use stablecoins. Now it is EVM compatible, but it has nothing to do with XRP. Okay. So Jake even said that he has no connection at the DTCC and he has no connection at Swift. So if you have no connection to either one of these things, and your only access to information is the same access that we have, right? I just looked at the facts of what I know to be true, right? You can speculate all you want that these things are going to happen, but unless I can say there's a fact, right? I'm talking to 20,000 people when I make a video, right? I can't just give you the wrong information because I'm not built like that. So I can only give you what I can prove unless we're making a video just built on speculation, right? I hope that helps. Get ready to have your face melt. Listen, I'm all for it, guys. I feel like when I push back on stuff, people think that I don't want these things to happen. Like, I want nothing more in my life. Like, I've dedicated my life to this thing. I spend more time on this than anybody in this chat. Right? I think that's fair to say, right? There's nothing else that's important in my life than this channel and knowing what's going on in the crypto market, right? And until I have the actual facts, it's just speculation. And so I'm just trying to deal with what I know, and hopefully that's important. All right. Yeah, Sean, I emailed Jake. I haven't heard back from him. All right. Jake and BlackRock have offices in the same building in Dallas. I think people look for things to be there. Like they want things to be there. My question to you is, how long has BlackRock been in that office? And then how long has Jake been in that office, right? Did Jake go and be in that office because BlackRock's in that office? Like, did you think about that or look into that? That's probably a real possibility, right? I think he's only been in that office for what, a year or two, maybe less. So do some due diligence on that. Sensei, do you have a pro clarity template we can use to write our senators? Yeah, I did put out a tweet a few weeks ago that has a template. It has a way to look up your senator. It has all of that stuff. Let me see. I'd have to just go through my tweets. It's going to take me a while to scan through all the tweets. I really don't want to do that. It's there. It was about 2 weeks ago. I did it. Really, really simple, man. If you can't find it, have AI just write you a tweet. Just say, hey, I want to contact my senator about the Clarity Act, and I want to tell them that I'm for it. AI can write you a pretty quick article, and it's very easy to find your senator. Find my senator, and so it'll give you probably this website. Share this tab, right? Just Google find my senator. It'll be the first U.S. Senate. And then you can simply just go here and choose the state. Like I would choose Hawaii. And then it would bring over both my senators. And then like I want to go Brian Schatz, right? And so here's his website. And then down here it should say contact my senator, contact. And then it'll bring me to this page where I just go share my thoughts, newsletter, request a meeting. And then so I just share my thoughts. And then it would bring you to this, like what's your name, and you go through the steps. I actually got an email back, but I don't know if it was like a, respond to this email, right? It's probably one of those. Yeah. Yeah, you can call or you can email your senators, guys. The XRP community, we're all on the same side here. I think we get very passionate about what we believe, who we believe, and why we believe. I hope you follow this channel because I give you the facts, and like that's the best I can do, right? I wanna believe all of these really incredibly amazing things, but I can only deal with what I know. All right, and I hope you respect that. Okay, we talked about the possible $1 trillion credit market moving closer to the XRP ledger. That's going to be really important. Yeah, here let's play a little bit of this. XRP North Star. This is from Evernorth talking about RLUSD.
We just published a deep dive on RLUSD's growth on XRP, and there's 3 things to know. First, RLUSD hasn't displaced XRP. It's running on it. Every RLUSD trade and transfer settles on XRP and pairs primarily against XRP. Second, it's the most traded asset on the network. RLUSD's share of all on-chain trading on XRP went from just under 1% to about 12% in under 18 months. And it's the RLUSD to XRP pair that has cleared roughly $900 million in 6 months. And 3, that activity feeds XRP directly. So a bigger dollar market means more XRP activity and deeper liquidity. About half of all RLUSD in circulation now sits on XRP, and that's up from about 17% in April. And so the takeaway, the dollar and XRP do different jobs. And the more the dollar gets used, the more active the XRP network becomes.
All right, that was, the beat is just too strong on that. They gotta be careful about the music they put on the thing. I was trying to do a video on this and I had this clip and like my brain was so focused on the beat that my brain was kind of blocking out what he was saying because I would like the music. United Kingdom, advice for having a small bag under 1,000 XRP. What's the best thing to do? Put it into Flare and Doppler. Reese, you got to make your own decisions on that. I'm not in the UK, and I don't have XRP in Flare or Doppler at this time, so I'm not the right person to ask that. And you do got to be careful about giving financial advice to someone in case something happens. So there is a lot of like content around this on YouTube. If you're interested in taking a look. Personally, I'm just holding on to my bags right now. I'm waiting for price appreciation before I kind of activate stuff. I don't feel it's necessary because like you have to put more XRP into any of these platforms to earn a return that's kind of worth the amount of risk of keeping your XRP on the platform, if that makes sense. Like if you're looking for a return of a few hundred or a few $1,000s a year or something, you might have to put up 10,000 or 20,000 XRP. And is it worth the risk of keeping that amount of XRP on the platform? It's not worth it to me at this point. Now, XRP post price appreciation, where I can put a whole lot less on these platforms to earn much higher rewards, that's something that I'm all for, right? Because now I'm really reducing the amount of XRP that I have out there to earn a return that would kind of make sense for me to take that amount of risk. So, not saying that you shouldn't go out and take a look at these things and research them yourself and better understand them. It's just right now, this is not something that I'm interested in. Like I'm more, let's hold for the long term here and get post price appreciation and then put it to work. All right. There is something going on with batch transactions. Batch is back after a hackathon, a security audit, and 4 reviews. Batch is officially merged back into the XRPL repo and will be up for voting next release. A man who has committed a mistake and doesn't correct it is committing another mistake. So that's going to be pretty cool. There's like 3 benefits here. Tech abstraction, wallets and website platforms will be able to bundle together steps that a user traditionally would need to take one by one. The challenge for XRPL app developers, the ELI5, the transaction content in the app to explain what is going to happen before the user is about to sign the bundled transaction. So how do you communicate what's going to happen? Delivery versus payment via trust line swaps, which is something institutions want and need. On-chain monetization, which is something retail-focused developers were asking for. Chaining of transactions. So this is actually something could be super useful. Ease of use for the NFT space, using the XRP Ledger to become a way easier because of how the tech is, how using the XRP Ledger will become way easier because of how the tech complexity can be abstracted. More usage on the XRP Ledger, more demand for XRP. And so I did dive into this. There was actually some really good information here. The batch is back. Batch transactions let you group together 8 regular XRPL transactions into a single outer transactions that the ledger processes according to the rules that you choose. It works with all standard XRPL transactions, payments, DEX ops, trust lines, NFTs. So any multi-step flow that you can imagine can be compressed into one submission. So that's going to be up for voting. Will it pass? I guess we will have to see. Okay, I do want to shift into MiCA because like I said at the beginning of the chat, this is a big deal. You go from only having 244 companies that are actually licensed now to continue operating in Europe, 3,000 companies now not able to operate across the EU. And so, oh, this is not a clip. Hold on. Yeah, if you take a look at the math here, roughly 8 to 10% of companies now that can operate in the EU. And this is not a small thing. Most of the licensing you can see here where the licensing was originated from: Germany, Netherlands, France, Malta, Cyprus, Ireland, and other jurisdictions. Remember, if you get licensed in the EU, in any country, you can passport it to all 27 member countries. And so July 1st came and went, and a lot of companies have to stop operating now. And so, I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. And then, so just so you know, Ripple is fully licensed with the EMI license out of Luxembourg. And then Ripple has been moving forward with it's either a VASP or a CASP. I think it's a CASP, crypto service asset provider license. And so they are ready and they can operate in the EU. All right, and then Tether. Tether has to stop operating in the EU, and so this could be a big tailwind for RLUSD or USDC. Listen, this is the CEO of Tether talking about why. This first is his opinion on the US and EU market.
We don't care about the usage of USDT in Europe and the US. We don't think Europe and US are a good market for us, and in general for stablecoins. That is our own opinion.
All right. Now, when I heard this, I was like, how would the US and the EU market not be good markets? I did find another video here that kind of broke this down a little bit more, and which made a whole lot more sense after I heard it. So I wanted to make sure that you guys had this information as I just learned this. Okay.
The problem that I had with MiCA is that MiCA license is very dangerous when it comes to stable coins. And I believe that is even more dangerous for the small medium banking system in Europe. I think that what will happen in the next years is that few banks in Europe will go belly up because of the requirements of the MiCA license of 60% of reserves has to be kept in uninsured cash deposits in European banks. Imagine like the quick back of the envelope calculation. Imagine that your stablecoin is 10 billion euros. You have to keep 6 billion euros in European bank, multiple banks, and all in UBS is not, or the big banks are not banking stable coins. So you have to turn to small banks in Europe, like 5 small banks at least in Europe, that in order to keep those reserves, because also there is a constraint in how much you can keep in each bank. So you have to find 5 small banks in Europe that will keep 6 billion euros. So you keep their 6 billion euros, so what will happen is that this bank, as uninsured cash deposits, these banks will take these euros and will lend it out because they can do a fractional reserves up to 90%. So it means that 5.4 billion euros will be distributed to people that want to buy a car, a house, and start a new business and all that. And 600 million euros will be kept by the banks. So imagine that you have a 20% redemption. So you need 2 billion euros back. You go to the bank and they only have 600 million euros. So the banks will go bankrupt, and because they cannot fulfill your requests, and you as a stablecoin issuer would go bankrupt. So I think it's a very not well thought legislation. I'm all for legislations, but they should be intelligent and it should be carefully designed to protect the consumers. So yes, I decided to not apply to the MiCA license because I need to protect the 400 million plus users that we have around the world.
All right. So there was his reply. I think that gave a lot of context on why they chose not to continue in the EU. I mean, when you watch the first comment, the first thing that came to my mind was like, what are you doing that you couldn't get licensed? After hearing that, I mean, he does make a point about some of the things. People can make their own decision, whether that's that you trust him and kind of what he's saying, or the opposite. But that's an explanation of why they didn't specifically continue. Now, the interesting part is Circle and Ripple both continued, and so other companies are also continuing. So it's kind of like the second largest stablecoin in the world is still doing it. How are they able to kind of get around, or not get around, but how are they able to operate and you're not able to do the same? And it kind of comes back to a specific audit of Tether over the last, it's been around since 2014, and they've never really been able to put out some good information about reserves and things like that. And I think recently they've kind of put some stuff out, but it still has like a very, I'd have to double check, right? Because I know we go back and forth. But people speculate that, people speculate all kinds of things about Tether. But if they're not in the EU market and they're not in the US market, those are two of the largest crypto markets in the world. And so that'll open up a big opportunity for the companies that will be there and will offer crypto infrastructure solutions. Now, a few things here. Robert Pellegrino, always nice to see you, my man, says, I just watch about all the XRP channels. Sensei is the best, no doubt. Thank you, man. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you. XRP Goat says, all we have to do is buy more and hold it in a cold wallet, man. It's really simple. The day will come to have a strong stomach and sit back with a beer. I think, this is my strategy too, right? Buy as much as I can, sit back and wait, I've done enough research to know at this point that the crypto market is filled with a lot of companies offering empty promises. And then there's some companies that are offering real solutions at scale. And I believe Ripple and the XRP Ledger and its community, you just can't replicate what they have going for it. And if it is going to be a new future where all of these transactions and infrastructure is via blockchain, I want to be a part of the most regulated asset in the crypto market. And so, yeah, well said, man. There was another comment here that I saw too. Let's see here. Invisible says, Brad Garlinghouse stated on live TV, Ripple XRP has the clarity. It is not a security. Then you had the CFTC and SEC clearly state XRP as a commodity, with those being facts and Ripple. So yeah, it's true. All of the things you said, they're accurate, right? The issue though is, even though all of those things are accurate and real, you still don't have usage by institutions in the United States using XRP. Okay. And the only question, right, is why, right? And the only answer that I can come up with, right, is lack of regulation. Okay. Now you got to understand that even though this CFTC and this SEC has said XRP is not a security, XRP is a digital commodity. A judge said that XRP is not a security, right? All of those things are accurate. If you don't pass regulatory clarity, and the next president, whether they're Republican, Democrat, or independent, whatever, are anti-crypto, and they put Gary Gensler back in, or a person like Gary Gensler, and they have a negative view of the crypto market, they can go back. Like, let's say you're a bank and you're like, all right, we're going to go in deep with XRP or whatever asset, and you start using it. Every transaction that you use the asset, if a rogue regulator comes in the next administration, they'll go back and they'll say, every single transaction that you used this asset that is not legal, we're going to come after you for. And that is why you don't have mass adoption and scale in the United States, even though you have all of the things that you just mentioned here, right? I hope that makes sense to you, because if you have another solution or another answer to why you haven't seen mass adoption of XRP yet in the United States, I would love to better understand that. I'd love to better research that. But you can go back to a certain point of time when the case totally settled, right? It had the clarity then. It was like only Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. So that would have been probably the time, right? And then you had the SEC come out and give it the digital commodity status. That would have been the time. It just didn't happen. But thank you for your comment. I hope the answer that I gave was valuable to you. So I need to, like, I don't know as much about Canton as I do about XRP. And I'm slowly learning more and more about Canton. I did put some money in Canton recently because of the stuff that's about to go live. I think it's like July 13th. I think there's going to be a lot of press and a lot of announcements. And like, my plan was to, put a little bit money in. If it goes up, maybe 100 or 200%, I was going to sell it and I was going to buy more XRP, seriously, or some XLM. I really don't know what's going to happen with it. But usually in front of like big like earth-shattering announcements like this, DTCC is the largest infrastructure, one of the largest infrastructures in the world for clearing and processing value. And obviously they're going live with Canton first. What kind of atmosphere will it be like over the next few weeks as far as interviews and articles? And you know, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about it. Obviously, it could be one of those things where nothing happens, right? You just don't know with the crypto market. But you know, I took a little bit of a little slice, and we'll see. I thought it was interesting though, like when the crypto market, like XRP, XLM, everything dove like 20% in June. Canton only shaved a few percent, right? And it still kind of maintained its price pretty well compared to other assets. And I thought that was interesting as I was watching it. Oh, somebody asked about Uphold. I checked the calendar. Uphold, Paul Untenberg for Uphold will be here live in a capacity on the 14th. So July 14th, I believe that is not this Tuesday, right? It's next Tuesday. Yes. So it's not Tuesday the 7th, it is the 14th. So it's 10 days away, all right, or 11 days away, and that'll be a lot of fun. I got to meet him the other day, just to kind of talk about the interview, and kind of you know, get to know him a little bit. Man, he loves XRP. He's a very big XRP bull. He knew a lot of things about the XRP, about the community and what was going on. And you could tell that, you know, he had some real big passion for it. And so it's always nice to meet somebody with that much knowledge and that much love of something like you and I do, right, of the asset class. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. At the end of any video, I hope you can go back and say he brought everything that he could find on this specific topic, and now I know more about it than I did when I started this video. That's the whenever I build any content, right? Sometimes it takes me hours, sometimes content takes me days. But at the end of every video, I ask myself, did I learn something here, right? Did I provide value? And I hope every video that you watch, you find some type of value. President's speech tomorrow should be interesting. Yeah, is he going to say anything about crypto? I think there's probably a whole prediction market on if he's going to say something about crypto. I would imagine it's top of mind for him, but I don't think he said anything at the State of the Union about crypto. So it's hard to know if he's going to fit it in his speech. Hopefully he does. XRP Army for life. Forward Crypto Sensei, good to see you. Still at it. Will the partnership with the OSUD, OUSD, it's OUSD, have any impact on XRP price action? So good question. Chester, always nice to see you, man. I hope you're doing well. XRP is a part of the infrastructure for that. Now there's people speculating on how big of a part XRP will play, and it's impossible to know, right? I mean, it's 140 companies, and it feels like, you know, I mean, there's some pretty big names on there, right? You have BlackRock, you have Visa, MasterCard, you have BNY, you have Google, IBM, I mean, Samsung, like just some of the biggest names you can imagine. And, you know, Ripple's kind of in there. And so there are people that are speculating that most of that infrastructure could possibly be XRP related, and Ripple's involved in this and that. We do know that XRP is involved. We just don't know at what scale. So we can speculate all we want. It's hard to know, man, but it is going to be a part of it, right? I think as we get more and more announcements and more understanding of how it's all going to work, then we might have a better understanding of what the impact could be. Obviously, this is stablecoin. And so if it's stablecoin transaction, let's say the XRP Ledger is handling because you got to imagine there's going to be different companies, different banking infrastructures, different chains here. It would make sense that a bridge asset could play the role in between all of these different because you might go like OUSD into a tokenized asset or a treasury, or I mean, you really can. You can go on the retail side, you can go on the institutional side, and so if you have all of these different swaps happening between different chains or different currencies or real world assets or government treasuries or whatever it is, that's really what XRP does well. So I think we got to understand the scale of what that's going to look like first before we know. But there's a possibility that it could be big if XRP plays a big role. Roz, what's up, man? Great to see you. I still got that beat in my head from the clip. What was it? Evernorth. Thank you, my man. Chester, I really appreciate you. Happy 4th of July. I hope you and the family are going to do something really nice, man. And I wish you the absolute best. Thank you for the donation. Man, there's been a lot of donations here today. $20, $1.99, $1.99, $5, $4.99, $10. Thank you, guys. Luna is going to eat really well this weekend. All thanks to you guys. You got to be careful with some fireworks in some states, though, because there's like really pretty extreme weather heat-wise. And, you know, you don't want to start some kind of major fire. So just make sure you know, check the local guidelines or whatever, you know, just be careful. Yeah. I was watching the news and it just seemed like extreme heat across a lot of the United States. And it looks pretty scary for some people. You know, just, you got to be careful. Am I going to stream the speech? No, you know, that's not usually something I do. You know, it's the weekend. The weekend I try to spend some time with my wife and my dog. We usually like go to the mall or you know, what do people in their 40s usually do on the weekends, right? If you don't have kids, you know, you're hanging out with your dog. You know, maybe you're going to get a massage or you're going to buy something at Macy's or something. I don't know, man. You know, but my wife and I are pretty competitive. We usually play some board games on the weekends, you know, and so I've been beating her down recently in a game that we play, and so she's always wanting to get back and play. So we'll probably do that. All right, Raphael, what's up, man? Thanks, Sensei, for what you do. We really appreciate you. What is your realistic prediction for XRP by 2030? Man, I hope. I hope, you know, I pray with everything I have that, you know, we are looking at a more serious price. It really depends on global regulation and how quickly that can be implemented. And it really depends on, you know, is XRP going to be used on some of these massive systems at scale? You know, Brad Garlinghouse, that he believes by like 2030, 2031, that about 4 trillion worth of G Treasury will happen on the XRP ledger. You got to imagine by then, Ripple Prime will probably grow from like 3 trillion to maybe 5 trillion, 6 trillion. So you got to imagine that the XRP ledger might be processing, you know, trillions, hopefully tens of trillions of dollars in payments per year. And if you can grow our real world assets from, you know, 5 billion to 500 billion or a trillion or larger in that time span, the price could realistically be, you know, 2 to 3 digits. Obviously, if some mega event happens where you need to provide global liquidity at scale, then you're talking about some you know, more higher prices. But realistically, how slow adoption has happened, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if XRP is anywhere between like, you know, $10 or $100 realistically. Like on the low end, if regulation doesn't happen and everything still continues to move at a slow crawl pace, you could be looking at like lower double digits. And if things really start to like pop off, you could be looking at like a 3-digit XRP. And then if things go like super cataclysmic, you know, but nobody knows, man. Like, just to be truthful and honest with you. You know, I spend 12 hours a day researching XRP, and nobody really knows what events are really going to move the needle. Everybody has guesses and everybody speculates, but it's really impossible to know. You know, $100 XRP, you'd be looking at like a 5 trillion market cap. So, you know, 50, 2.5 trillion, you know, 25, you're looking at about a 1.25 trillion market cap. It's hard for me to imagine XRP's role in the global stage not being at multiple trillions over the next few years. You know, especially if you do get global adoption and more and more people find out about XRP, BlackRock enters the space. I really think like price could take off quickly if there's enough sudden demand for the asset, right? And we can't predict when and if that's going to happen, right? We can hope. We can talk about it. We can say that it is going to happen, but we really don't know. For BlackRock to enter the space, you're going to need more trading volume for XRP specifically. You know, how much money is in XRP right now for ETFs? You know, 1.3 billion in the United States, something like that. Maybe a little bit less. That's chump change for BlackRock. BlackRock's IBIT, you know, it does that in a day for volume wise usually. And so you really would need a lot more trading volume for them to enter, for it to be worth it for them to enter. And if they came in and then they created a market for it, competition for it, maybe you have Morgan Stanley that enters as well, or another big institution, then you're really talking about some pretty massive demand for the asset. And then if retail jumps along with it, you know, it could get out of hand pretty quickly. Like the order books on exchanges could be very thin, right? If you get a sudden few $1 billion in real demand for XRP off of those retail exchanges, like the price could jump up dramatically very quickly, and then it could kind of come back. So long-winded answer for your question. Not sure if you're any more closer to an answer, but you know, I pray for something big, man. I really do. I think about it all the time, and nothing would make me happier to see it take off, and everybody that watches the content, has XRP, even doesn't watch my content, but supports XRP content across other creators. Like everybody would just have a different life, man. And you'd be the same person, just, you know, larger bankroll. And what you could do with that, you know, the options are limitless. And you know, that would be a beautiful day. It really would. Social says, I think real world assets on the ledger plus major banking institutions moving in plus clarity will catapult it. Yeah, I mean, very, very possible, man. I'm always, you know, and just to have a real conversation with you, you know, when I entered the space, you know, when I first started learning about XRP, it was like 2019, first entered the space 2020. It's been 6 years, you know, going on 7 years. And I was thinking about that the other day. And I was like, oh, someone asked me how long I've been in the crypto space. I was like, oh, 4 or 5 years. Oh, wait, no, it's actually 6. Like, whoa. That's a long time. And over that time, every week, every month, every year, it was our year, right? It was something big is about to happen any day now, any moment now. And 6 years later, haven't seen that yet. So when people ask me about timelines and price, I'm very cautious in kind of how I approach that question, because it was our time in 2020, and it was our time in 2021. It was our time in 2024. It was our time when the ETFs launched. It was our time when we had regulatory clarity. It was our time when, you know, XYZ. So, man, is this year going to be our time? I don't know, man. I hope. I hope. Market multiplier, absolutely. Like, see, the thing about a market multiplier is, at what point does it stop being a huge multiplier, right? And I think right now, because liquidity is very thin, that the multiplier is huge, right? But if you start having multiple trillions of dollars in the asset, and there's a pretty big demand for selling the asset, you know, you just got to be careful with how big that multiplier will be and for how long. That's the question that most people can't figure out. Like, does it just go to infinity, right? Does it go to 100 trillion or quadrillion? Or does it slow down? Like Bitcoin, like the same thing was said about Bitcoin and ETH, market cap multipliers were very high at first, and you saw the explosion in price, and then they cooled way down, right? And so, you know, history often repeats, right? You can say XRP is different, but it's really a crypto asset. It's the same kind of asset class, and so hard to know. What happens if Ripple releases all their XRP to add liquidity? So they can't release all their XRP. So Ripple, excuse me. Ripple has like 4 to 5 billion XRP. They can do anything they want with that XRP. If they decided to dump it on the market, like there's nothing that you could do to stop them. Everything that we know about Ripple to this day makes me believe that they're going to continue to maybe acquire it when it's cheap. And you know, I don't think they're going to be bad stewards of the escrow or the XRP that they have. I think Ripple knows what's coming globally, and they're positioned pretty well. But remember, the escrow is the escrow. You can't unlock it early, no matter what you do. So, you know, it's still going to play out month after month, year after year. Ripple continues to relock up 70% of XRP. And so, you know, there's even people that think that Ripple will stop selling XRP at some point too. So, I can't go to bed worried about what Ripple's going to do with their XRP. I think they continue to be good stewards, and they want to see, like, they know that XRP is their most important asset. Like they built all of their stuff around it. They host all of these events. They do all of these grants. They do all of this community engagement, right? Because they care, and they understand that without the community, they have nothing, right? You know, you can have an asset that institutions care about, but if you don't have a community to back it up, you know, it's going to be very difficult to roll out your plan. And it's like, why do you think Canton is out here trying to build bridges and build a community like what Ripple has? It's very difficult, right? And so you just got to imagine, man, they're gonna keep being good stewards. They've been for all of these years. I don't think that's going to change tomorrow for any reason, realistically. But if I ever sit down with Brad Garlinghouse, I'll ask him that question. All right. Rafael, thanks for the answer. Really appreciate the analytic and realistic approach. We need you more crypto senseis in the industry. Thank you, man. Yeah, you know, I think we all want something to be truly, truly incredible, man. And you know, the great thing, like, this is what I say to myself, right? And this is why when you ask the question to somebody, nobody truly knows. You don't know how quick global adoption will be of the asset class, right? You got to imagine you are in a digital arms race with other countries and other corporations, okay, and other banking institutions. We know the unlocks of what blockchain, stable coins, and crypto assets can do. We know it's going to reduce friction. It's going to make things cheaper and more efficient, right? You're going to be able to go to, you know, instant settlement, which is a really big deal, right? And you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in savings for large institutions over a longer period of time. And eventually it'll go into trillions of dollars in savings, right, over a longer period. Like, there's nothing else that you can get that unlock, right? So we know it's coming. We just don't know how fast it's coming. And, you know, if the United States passes regulation, does that speed up all of these other smaller countries that are waiting for the US to maybe make a move? Maybe they do a lot of trade with the United States. And so, you know, we just don't know what that looks like. And then what happens if 1 billion people wake up tomorrow and they understand that there's a new financial system and they understand that they could actually own a piece of it, right? Is there some type of event that happens that that turns that demand on. You know, I think those are all of the things that we just can't foresee. But they could possibly be on the horizon, and they could happen at any time. Does the DTCC announce XRP? Right. We know that Ripple is connected into the DTCC for clearing for their customers, but the DTCC hasn't come out and said, hey, we're going to use the XRP for liquidity or for anything, right? So what happens if they do make that announcement? What will the demand be, right? Because you got to remember, Stellar doesn't have ETFs. They don't have that institutional level of on-ramp into the asset. XRP does. So if you made the same announcement for Stellar and XRP, right, or Stellar and Ripple, right, the same announcement, you're going to have a greater impact on XRP because there's easier ways for institutional investors to get the money into the market. And so what would that look like? And how big of a deal would that be? Because you have more investors, you have more demand, and like people, it would be a frenzy. It really would be a frenzy. So how long does that frenzy go on? And would other things happen at the same time to really start moving the needle? I think this is what people speculate on almost daily in the XRP community. And, you know, XRP is, you know, one of the most liquid, most compliant crypto assets in the world. And we're entering a more compliant arena for crypto assets. It could all have an impact. Kios says, I've always said to give Ripple till 2030. I don't need it to pop tomorrow because I know it is an inevitable outcome of this company. I was a teen and watched the inception of the internet. I've seen. Yeah, and I think, you know, I don't know how old you are, but you're probably within a few years of my age, right? You know, just like 30 years ago, everyone didn't have smartphones. You know, it was a lot harder. Remember when like AOL came out and like Yahoo Messenger, MSN Messenger, like that was game changing. And then now you fast forward to where we are today. Everybody has a smartphone. Maybe some people have 2 smartphones, right? And then, you know, you can do almost anything now with AI. What will the next 3 years or 5 years look like, right? And that's something that we didn't bring up too. The agentic economy is coming, right? This is something that XRP holders didn't talk about, didn't know it was coming years ago, right? This is something that is not really in anyone's models, because if anyone was making a model in 2015 or 2018 or whatever the date was, right? AI wasn't as big as it is, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. Who was it? It was the head of innovation at Franklin Templeton, Sandy Call. I remember her talking about agentic commerce and saying something about 183 trillion. Let me see. Can I find that clip? Hold on. Sandy Call. Sandy, was it K-A-L-U? K-A? Oh, so hold on. 183 trillion. 183. No. Okay, hold on. Agentic. Is that how you spell her name? Hold on. K-A-U-L. It is. Okay, hold on. Sandy Call Agentic AI. Let me see if I can find the clip. No. There's a clip of her talking about 183 trillion opportunity. Of course, I got to freaking try to find it though. See, when you get too lost with find me a clip. Agentic AI and the 183 trillion. Let's see if I can find it. But that's not really programmed into a lot of people's thoughts about the market either. And that's going to be a big driver. I mean, you're just now seeing the XRP Ledger pass 1 million transactions for agentic AI. That's exploded like 300 and something % recently. I was just doing a video and I had that in a video. Hold on. Oh yeah, right here. I got it. Playa right here. Check this out. Look at this explosion. Look at this. Recently, nearly 1 million agent transactions have settled through the XRP Ledger. Okay, look at this. Dead. Nothing. Then you got some life, right? Then you got a beat. Then you got boom. Look at this. Look at this transaction volume. This is only going to scale. This is up 354%. This is going to get massive. And when it does, people, hold on to your butts. Seriously. Oh, I found it. I freaking found it. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Man, I love it. Look at, all right, Sandy Call, right? Okay, Sandy Call, Franklin Templeton, 180, representing 183 trillion transaction volume. Listen.
Estimates now have agents running 25 to 30% of all US online commercial sales within the next 5 years. That is unbelievable. I think it was 183 trillion worth of transaction volumes. They are doing this at speeds and with computing power that they need these decentralized rails to be able to facilitate. They need to be able to leverage the smart contracts and the automated execution terms. They need to have the digital identity that these rails provide. They need to be able to look at the transaction pricing and do that instantaneous comparative shopping to look for the best deal in the best moment to minimize their own transaction costs. Even the way that we do payments today and the transactions on networks like MasterCard or Visa is so slow that there is no opportunity whatsoever that we are going to be able to allow for 183 trillion of machine-to-machine transactions to occur without utilizing these decentralized blockchain rails and protocols.
I mean, that's going to be a big impact. How much will that move the price? And how much will the XRP Ledger represent? That's something that nobody is not really talking about. Let's see here. Kay Clark, Sensei, really appreciate your positive vibe and truth you give us. You always speak from the heart and care about us retail folks. God bless you, Sensei. Say hi to Luna. Thank you. I really appreciate you. You want to say hi to Luna? Hold on. I'll get her. Come here, Bobby. Oh, is the desk too high? Here, let's lower the desk for you. All right, here you go. All right, look at, there you are. Hi. You have a good nap? Huh? How you doing? She's a little shaggy today. You want to say something into the mic? You want to say your name? Luna's very quiet. People don't even know she's there. She could be like a silent assassin. Yeah. She doesn't like the cameras. She knows. She always gets really weirded out when you got the camera going on. Is there anything you want to say though? You want to say happy 4th of July to everybody? Huh? I'm so tired, huh? Little bear? Yes, I know. Okay. All right. Go sit down. Give me a second, okay? I know. It's about that time. I know. Hello from Vancouver. Good to see you. Spasm. Hello from Spain. Oh, man. People from all over the world. Love it. You can do it. Come on. Luna doesn't like the wood floors that we have. We have to buy these like really long carpets so she can go through the house because she's very particular. Japan is key. Yeah, a lot of things happening in Japan too. I mean, there's so much stuff happening here, guys. Yeah, so Crypto Sensei, what about Brad talking about 13 trillion? So if you listen to all the interviews Brad's given, which I've listened to everything. I listened to it the first time, and then I listened to it with you guys, and I use it on content. So I've heard almost every word Brad Garlinghouse has said over the last few years, and he believes that Ripple Treasury, that 30% will be processed on the XRP ledger in the next 5 years. So you have 13 trillion. Luna, you can do it. Come on, go. You have 13 trillion, 30%. It's about 4.2 trillion worth in the next 5 years. Now that was a slower timeline and less money than I thought. I guess when he's talking about it, you're thinking like, hey, let's go 13 trillion. Bing, bada, boom, let's do it. But it does seem like it is a slower timeline. She is camera shy. Luna knows, like when you have your phone camera, you put it in front of her, like when you're taking a picture, she'll always kind of turn her head. She knows. Dogs are very smart. You got people from Venezuela. You got people from North Dakota. Sergio, I hope you and your family weren't affected by then you guys just have some really bad earthquakes. Just horrible, man. I hope everybody is safe, man. I saw some of the clips on the news, looked heartbreaking. Hey Joyce, nice to see you. They're not buying Ondo there. Ondo, like if you look at Ondo over the last, like, have you seen Ondo and the XRP ledger though? Like they've been moving assets off the ledger. I've been keeping track of this here. So if you go XRP, Luna, you can do it. And look at Ondo here. Look, they're down 16% over the last 30 days. Assets have been leaving the XRP ledger from Ondo. These are short term. I think people are maybe selling these. Hold on. I just want to show you what represents Ondo on the chain. There you go. So that's just Ondo right there. So as you can see here, you did, like the max was about 322 million, and now you're at 220. So they've lost actually a third of assets here from Ondo since 423. Actually, no, 5/13/2026. So I don't know if that's just selling and just repositioning. Hard to know. Happy 250, y'all. That's a huge achievement. It's crazy to think that, we're just approaching 250 here, but there's some countries that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, like that, certain governments have been formed and things like that. I mean, you look at like when it was like France and England, it's been a long time, right? It's been like hundreds and hundreds of years. And then if you go to places like, China, Japan, I mean, it goes back a long time. Africa. Are you tap dancing? What are you doing? You can go. Come on. You need help? We're going to go soon, okay? Can I get a few more minutes? You ever negotiate with your dog and lose? I feel like that happens often. Sensei, a few days ago, Princeton and I got a plant. It's green and red, so we named it Crypto. That's pretty cool. Take good care of that plant. It's important. Crypto, Sensei, my thoughts exactly. If you're saying that, I feel like we're gonna. Oh, I think Lord is maybe catching up on some older content. Sensei, going to Pearl Harbor tomorrow for music and fireworks. Every time I go to Pearl Harbor, man, it's like brings something out of me, man. I start getting very emotional. Like it's you go out to the memorial and it's very it kind of hits you all at once, doesn't it? But I hope you have fun, man. Hopefully there's not a lot of fireworks here. Luna gets really scared, and we live across from the Alamona Park. And so people set off fireworks in the park, and it's loud. It's really loud. And so we usually just kind of chill, but I hope you have fun, man. There's a friend invited me to a barbecue actually on the 7th. It's like a crypto meetup or something like that. Send me an email. I'll see like how many people are going if you're interested. Dude, my dog thinks she gets 92 bathroom breaks a day when I'm around, but it only goes out 2 or 3 times a day with grandpa. Yeah, you know, I feel you. You know,